Rose was supposed to be here. She was here. She has an emergency. She had to run out, so I get to do it all by myself. So we are back to talk about AZ's reports, or AZ's reports. The last focus group, or the last time we were here at ASCUS, we showed you some mock-ups of what the reports look like. And today we actually have these reports in staging. As Mark kind of alluded to earlier, we have several vendors that have actually certified on version 1 of AZ, or the EdFi model. And we are working to get pilots to start submitting data to our staging environment, basically a test environment for them. And they will have the 6 reports that I'm going to go over today available to them to see the data that they've submitted. So let's see here. As Mark mentioned, all AZ's reports will be accessed through ADE Connect. Your ADE Connect entity admin will have to assign you appropriate roles to access the reports. And then all the AZ's reports will actually be run on AZ Dash. It's going to be our reporting engine, basically. Right now it's a dashboard, but we're adding our reports to here as well. So it'll be an additional permission. So if you don't have AZ Dash reports right now, you still won't have AZ Dash reports. The dashboard type reports, it'll be a separate tab, and I'll show that to you here shortly. But basically, it's a permission through ADE Connect AZ Dash to see the AZ's reports. Actually, it's multiple permissions. So what kind of permissions are we looking at? As I mentioned before, and for those that weren't here last time, Rose started focus groups with half a dozen to a dozen LEAs plus ADE departments several months back. And when I started back in September, I started with her and then took over and doing the mock-ups. And Tuesday we have another focus group meeting with them. And these are the roles that we're going to propose to them right now. Three roles at the LEA level, and then 3 roles down at the school level. Basically, you can give a combination of roles to users if they need to see different types of reports, but here you'll see some of the reports that we have, just some AZ data reports, basically verification reports, ADM reports. Then we have another role with permissions for program reports for ELL, SPED, and support programs. And then we have another special one, basically limits to just to see the NCLB type reports. So if you have one user that needs to see all of them, they would be assigned to all 3 roles at either the LEA or school level, or you can just do a combination of one or many vendors. So this is proposed, it's not set in stone yet. So accessing the AZ's reports. After this slide, most of the rest of my slides are all screenshots, and since can't show live data, we had to do some mock-up of reports. We're running data in through test right now into a staging environment, but we have to use real district LEA districts to pump data into, even though it's test data. And so I had to modify some of the screenshots, so I can't show it to you live. 1 second.
If you're an entity administrator, are you going to have access to all of those?
If you're an entity administrator, you would have access, as Mark's mentioned. The goal is that you would automatically get access, but then you'd be able to assign people in your district to one or more of those roles.
So I apologize, I'm not understanding something. So I understand how your staff get access to AD Dash. I know that I'm an entity administrator, and so but when I move on with reading permissions, I have to go to another place to give those permissions. Is that what you're talking about here? That we have to go somewhere else to give these permissions, or do we do it through our student management system?
I don't know the answer to that. That's all through ADE Connect. If we can.
Does somebody else understand what's happening? I'm not understanding.
No. Yeah.
Okay.
My understanding, these are all through ADE, the entity admin, ADE Connect, entity admin, assigning people to specific roles.
So then it's not, because our teachers, right, we just get permissions through our student management system. I don't go somewhere else. Right. But for move on with reading, I have to go to, somebody remember what it's called? As the administrator, yeah, that's what we're saying now. So as the administrator, you have to do these possibly?
It will be both ways because not everyone is still directly connected or federated through the SIS. So for those who
Can you give
are
her the
not,
mic? I'm sorry. Thank you.
so for those who are not connected through the SIS, we will still have the option available on that entity administrator page. But for those LEAs who already got themselves federated on the SIS, it will be the same way as you give access to teachers.
Okay, so I am federated to my student management system for the AE Connect, for my teachers and my administrators, right?
Yes.
But Move On with Reading, I have to go somewhere else to give those permissions. I can't do it through my student management system.
So,
Because that's part of how you're setting up, so I need clarification, that now you seem like you're making it harder for me, that you want me to do some through my student management system, but now you want me to do others, like Move On with Reading, through another portal for you guys.
so let me come back, explain it in the context of Move On and Reading and with SIS, and we'll reply back to all the information on detail. Right now, it's just that here's what we are proposing in terms of what the roles and all the details are. Once we have more information on whether you need to go to like Move On and Reading place, or is it just to SIS, what needs to happen even for the SIS vendors, if they need to make change or we need to make it, we'll come back.
Okay, thank you.
All right, does somebody else have another question that we need to answer? All right. So once they log in, if you've been given one of the permissions, and I'll show you the tab here shortly, they'll have a tab for Easy Dash, and they'll be able to see specific reports based on the role that they've been assigned. And I have another tab here, as Mark mentioned, we're looking after the pilot phase for, you know, the first couple of districts for each vendor. You know, he's hoping to open this up so that we can get more data, so that we can get things corrected before it goes live on July 1st. And so we have a staging environment, and even though this is production, we'll have a tab in here that will allow you to, you know, if you pump that in to your staging environment, you'll be able to run your AZEDS reports either from our test staging environment or from production. So.
In this context, are you using district as district or district as LEA?
LEA.
Okay, just, okay.
Thank you. So, if you have access to AD Connect, you would log in and you'd have a page similar to this. You may have many more items here depending on what you've been given access to. I have been limited, at least in this environment, to just AZ Dash, so you can see that link there. So whether you come in from your SIS or some other method, at the current time, this is the way it would look if you had one of the permissions. And then click on that and you're taken to AZ Dash. And you can see up here I have two tabs, one for AZEDS reports, which would be production data, and then AZEDS reports -test, which would be for my staging environment if I was a vendor that was doing pushing data into staging. And so if you're not pushing any data into staging and haven't requested that staging environment, you won't have that additional tab there. You just have the one on the left-hand side. So click on your tab there, and you'll see the reports that we currently have available. And what we're going to try and do is break these down into different sections. So the first 6 that we have here are all verification reports. And actually, if you click on one of these, you would be taken to the parameter page. So back in here, we have, let me just quickly go over them and then I'll go into the details of each of them. So we have a submission verification report. This shows how many records were sent up from your SIS vendor through the API, REST API. It'll give us how many passed, how many we accepted, and how many failed. And then you can go back to your, if some failed, the details would be back in your SIS. And at least the vendors that we've seen thus far are providing some of that information back to you and telling you which record failed and giving you reasons why. We have the student data verification report, which is very similar in look and feel to the ADMS 72. The staff data verification report and the course data verification report are brand new. As Mark and Lori mentioned, in the STC portion, STC data as of July 1st will be coming through the EdFi AZEDS reporting. So you won't have a separate STC collection. All of your data will be coming up through this REST API. So we've provided a couple of reports to show you some of that data. Then we have the ELL and SPED data verification reports, and these are your ELL 71 and SPED 71. Basically, look and feel on those. So without further ado, if I were to click on submit submission verification report, I'd be taken to a parameter page similar to this. We have the fields here. Some of them will be disabled based on your access level. So at the state level, we can select a district that we need to run the report for troubleshooting. You guys would all be set on that. Is there a question? All right, fiscal year, you'll be able to go back and run the report for previous fiscal year. And I'm quickly going to go show you some of the fields here and what they look like. Some of them have some nice new features, I think. On the left-hand side, you'll see that there's the grouping of reports again. And instead of having to go back up there to the top and clicking the tab to go back to the main reports page, you can click on any of those reports on the left-hand side and go directly to the report. And as we add more reports, the top portion there that says data verification, you'll be able to click on that, it'll collapse, and you'll have other sections of data there. So you'll be able to open up the other sections of data and run reports from those sections as well. No, it does not. It does not open up a new window. It opens up, it just refreshes this tab with. So if I click on student data verification, it would just refresh this tab with the parameter page for that report. So quickly going through some of these fields, some of the nice things, at least from my point of view, and hopefully you guys agree, is if you're at the LEA level, you'll be able to run the reports, many of the reports, for one or many schools at a single time. So some of the nice features here is in that filter box, you can start to type in a name of a school, or if you want, just like your elementary, you can type in elementary. As long as all of your elementary schools have elementary in the name, it'll filter the list to just elementary. You can select the check all portion, and if you have 30 elementary schools, it'll say check all 30 of them in that schools box up there where it says 79 selected right now, would show you 30. You can type things in and do multiple filters. So if you want, you have 2 schools that you want and they're on opposite ends of the drop-down list, you've got 80 different schools in there. You can start to type their name in, say check all, erase it, type in the next one, say check all, and you'd have 2 schools selected instead of scrolling through the entire list. Same type of thing you can do on check all, etc. Yes?
Just a quick clarification, if you select multiple schools, do you get one report with multiple schools, or do you get multiple reports?
One report with multiple schools on it. The date fields, they don't have a calendar icon next to them, but if you click into the fields, they pop up a calendar so you can select, or you can type in the date if you so prefer. Any questions thus far? All right, so this is run through SQL Reporting Services, and so when you click View Report, it'll show you a sample report there, very similar to some of the reports you get now on Common Logon, where you can look through the report right inside the viewer. And then at the very top there, there's also options to export it to a PDF file or to print it. So you can print it directly from here. It actually opens up a viewer, and then you print it from the viewer. All reports will, so far that I've seen, will have these 2 options. And as I get into some of the other reports, there'll be additional option to export it to CSV. Questions? Anything so far?
This particular one won't be able to...
This one, correct. This one is not suitable for exporting to Excel. There's different groupings and things on this report. It just didn't lay out well going to Excel. So we're trying to make them as user-friendly as possible instead of just giving you the option to put it to Excel, but then once you get it to Excel, it wouldn't be usable.
You've got to overcome that.
When you see this report, you'll understand why. It's just a very high level numbers. It's not giving you any details whatsoever as to what type of record succeeded or failed. It's just giving you high level numbers.
I'm sorry, you got a submission verification report.
Correct.
Sorry, but this student, the reports that.
All of the other ones that I'm going to talk about today are exportable to CSV. So we're working on every single report through the focus group and doing our best to make them, you know, not only to PDF, which some people like, but CSV, where people like to filter the data themselves. So this is, and I apologize, you know, these are reports, and so as you know, the font's like a 8, 9, or 10, probably more like an 8 because there's so much data on there. But I did a screenshot, and so this is a mock-up of what, or not a mock-up, this is actually data from our test environment showing you, you know, what this will look like. So we're doing like banding every other line. We're trying reports like this because, you know, this is very small. If you have 80 schools, you're going to have a lot of school names there on the left-hand side. But every other row, we're trying to do the gray banding, so it's easier to read, know which line you're on, that type of thing. We're also adding a watermark on the background. We're still having a little bit of issues with this because of the gray banding. As you can see, the gray banding just like overwrites the image. So we're still playing around with that a little bit, getting some ideas, but we are trying to make it so you know that this is an ADE report because we know your vendors are making reports similar to a lot of these coming out of your system. So we want you to make sure when you run it that you know that it's from ADE versus running it from your SIS. That was something that most of the LEAs in the focus group were asking for. So moving on to the student data verification report. On all of the parameter pages up here in the right-hand corner, you'll see there's a minus sign. And if you were on the page and you click on that minus sign, it'll actually compress this parameter page. And I'll show that to you on the next slide. I just wanted to kind of point it out. We're just trying to make things as user-friendly as possible. So no new fields really here on this page, so I didn't show you any new drop-downs or anything like that. So if I run the report and I click the minus sign at the top, then you can see that whole parameter section at the top is now gone, but it changes to a plus sign if you want to go back up and change the parameters and rerun it again. Here you'll see that the CSV option now shows up, so once you've run it, you can then export it to a CSV file. And we went with the CSV export option because if you export it to an Excel file, it puts in the page headers and page footers, and then it causes issues with you trying to be able to filter your data, etc. So we found that all the districts in the focus group really just said, you know, if you can't clean that up going to Excel, send it to CSV and we'll import it into CSV. So hopefully that's the easier, better way for all districts. And whether you're on a Mac or a PC, you'll be able to open that up in Excel or your Google Docs spreadsheet or something like that and be able to use the file appropriately. So then this is what the report looks like. You'll see we have many of the same columns that you have on your current ADM 72. One thing that I want to point out here is up in well, how do I say this nicely? In the current reports, you can tell that different developers worked on the reports because they don't all look the same, they don't all function the same, etc. So what we're trying to do here is have common headers. You know, up in the upper left-hand corner, we're going to have the report ID, the fiscal year, and since this actually got deployed to staging, we're adding school year. So underneath that fiscal year, it would say school year 2014-2015. The middle of the page would be your LEA or district name, then the report name underneath that. And then if there's some of the reports actually have a third line under there if the report name is extremely long. On the right-hand side would be your district CTDS or CTD, and then page number, and then report date. That's the date that you actually ran the report. Below that, we have group headers. And I know we have kind of group headers on the reports now, but if this goes to multiple pages, you don't know which group you're in anymore. So one of the big things that we're doing on all of these reports is if this school, Arizona High School, went to multiple pages within grade 9, that whole entire section at the top there, school CTDS, school name, grade 9, would go to the next page. So you'll know that I'm on page 12 now, which grade am I looking at? And then at the very bottom of most of the sections of these reports, we are adding totals. So if this does go to 12 pages, you know that I have 127 students on these 12 pages within grade 9. And then when you go to grade 10, it'll have a total at the end of grade 10, etc. All right. Moving on, so staff, same type of thing, nothing major on the parameter page. Oh, one thing I do want to bring up is we've gotten some feedback about the parameter page. These are all in staging, they're all in development basically through QA, but pilots haven't seen them yet because we haven't had a pilot submit us enough data to see all the reports. But we're going to be working on this with the focus groups as well as internal departments. You'll see here that it doesn't have the ID number. I know a lot of people know their reports by ADMS 71 or ELL 75 or something like that. We're gonna add that to here as well as the front page as well, where you saw the big list of reports. So you know right away, you don't have to go, well, what was that report's name again? Put that in there. We're also working on getting better descriptions, longer descriptions, so that if somebody's new, they'll be able to go in here and know that this report shows them this type of data. So this is what this is currently looking like. Kind of had to make this one up from scratch because, as you know, STC doesn't really have any reports. So what we did was we looked through a lot of the, pulling in a lot of the mandatory fields that you needed to upload for STC, and just did a short report here on teachers. And we have a same type of thing at the top. It'll show your school CTDS and your school name if you're running this for multiple schools. It'll do a break and show you the next school name and CTDS number once that appears. After each school section, we were requested to add teachers with missing birth date, teachers that were missing their stakeholder ID, and then the total number of staff for the school. So just because those are a couple of the fields that you need to have, I believe, for your HTC data, your birth date and your stakeholder ID number coming from that system. So just a couple of the key fields. And then at the very end of the report, there's actually just a summary section that shows you all of the schools that you ran for, and those 3 numbers as well for those staff records from those schools. So if you wanted just to see that, you could run the report and go all the way to the last page and just see your summary data of missing records and how many staff members you've uploaded for each one of your schools. All right, same type of thing with course. Again, there was no course data verification before because it's all coming through STC, but now we will be providing some of that information here as well. Again, this is not the details of how many students are in each course, but these are just the courses that you have uploaded and the required fields that I could find that needed to be uploaded, and then just some informational fields as well. Again, there's a total at the bottom showing you how many courses you have uploaded for your individual school, and if you're running this report for multiple schools, you would have a total at the end of each one of those schools. Any questions so far? All right, moving right along. ELL. Again, no major changes here on this parameter page. And once again, it looks as similar as we can to your current ELL 71. Adding totals at the bottom. And the one additional item that we added here was total unduplicated students. So let's see here, there's 11 total records. So the second student there is actually reported twice with 2 ELL records. And you'll see that the unduplicated student count is 10. But the total number of records for this school and this grade level is 11. Any questions there? Wow, I'm moving right along. It's going to be your presentation pretty soon, Julie. Last but not least is the SPED data verification report. And one of the options here that I wanted to show you was some of the reports that you have now, like the SPED 71. You have a SPED 71 and I believe what is SPED 72, or sorry, 71.1 and a 71-2. And one is for DOA and one is for DOR. what we're trying to do here is limit the number of reports you have, but be able to give you the option to run it for the way you want to run it, right from a single parameter page. So, this will be the same as similar as your SPED 71 now. You'll just come to the same parameter page and go, well, instead of running it for DOA, I'm going to run this one for DOR. So it'll give you the same report you're used to now, out of the new system, but instead of having two totally different parameter pages, we're just having one. So as often as we can, where the reports, the layouts are the same, we have to calculate the data is slightly different. It's really two reports on the back end, but since they're really the same concept report, we're trying to combine them here. And that's really where the description there at the very top, like I mentioned, we're going to be working on that, so it'll have that type of information in that description to explain to the users. If you're wanting to run it for district of residence, select that option, and it'll be similar to XYZ report. Yes?
Does that also include information from the SPED 07 report for October 1st counts?
SPED 07 report.
Nope.
I would not be able to answer that. These are only the reports, student details reports. So you would have to talk to that department to find out if their reports are even changing, that report's even changing this year. Any other questions? So the same type of thing here with your SPED 71. The columns, I believe, I might have mentioned this on the last one, we're working with the focus group in rearranging some columns and, like a middle name here, that's actually going to be changed to middle initial, things like that. But overall, this is going to be very similar to the reports you're used to. And we're just adding totals and making them all look as uniform as possible, so it looks like they all came from the same department. Yes, Bob?
Pretty quick question. Noticed you had rates and they were coded. So
Yes, that's actually a good question.
Is there a key for that code?
That is, so, let's see, within just the last couple of weeks, actually I think back on February 3rd, the last focus group meeting, these are, the race codes here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's not the way that they're going to be in the final report. Actually, development, I wrote up about 10, and I wrote up set enhancements, bugs, because it's already done, but those are changing. So I think 5 is white, so it's, I think, changing to WH. Black is BL. We got a specific set of codes from a different department. Let's see here, exit, service exit, exit reason. Here it says like program ended. I actually worked with all of the departments, SPED, ELL, school finance on these 3 reports. I think one of them I have just like a code. That's a good example. Some of these reports I just had codes in these mock-ups previously and for development. So they actually just put the codes in there, and we realized, that's not really helpful enough. So we got short descriptions from each of the departments. So short descriptions are going to go in here. Some reports, there will be notes at the bottom. I think one of the very first reports, the note is unreadable because it's so small, but some of them do have notes at the very bottom of the report, like this one. But as much as we can, we're going to try and avoid the notes. If we do have to point you someplace, we're going to point you to a website so you can go directly to the website and look up what those codes are or what that note means. But we're trying to make it so that it's more understandable instead of code 5. What is a code 5? If you're not working with it every day, you don't know what that is. So, you had 2 more.
Yeah, sorry. On the SPED report, I really like the idea that it's one report and you can choose either residence or attendance. Can there be an option where you can have both on the same report?
Can't have both on the same report because it's different logic depending on which way you're running it. Because it's really 2 reports in the back end.
Good with that. And of course, being an old guy, I don't remember the third question. So.
If you remember, I think there was somebody on the other side that had a question. Yes. This is actually in effect in staging right now for those pilot LEAs that are coming in from vendors. So this will go live July 1st.
So July 1st, so we can tell the registrar that, as we're looking, this is where
As of July 1st, they'll have to go to ADE Connect, go to the AZES reports, and if they've been given permission, they'll be able to see the reports they've been given permission to.
And in August, if we have to go back to this fiscal year and look at any reports, will they be this format or the old format?
If you look at last year's, you look at the current year's reports, next year, it'll be, you'll have to go back to looking at them in common law code. This is just, they'll have, we still have to give them